Hey there folks, welcome to Spectrum Pulse. He's about music, movies, art and culture, and this is Billboard Breakdown. So yeah, pretty cool new intro, eh? Shout out to Billboard for helping me put this together. She does regular slideshows chronicling top 10s and the Billboard Hot 100 in its entirety. Definitely check it out, she makes some pretty good stuff. But on regular episodes of Billboard Breakdown, a frequent tagline of mine is that the Canadian charts are always better than those of the United States. And that has drawn a lot of responses, from curiosity to outright skepticism. I mean, this is the nation that gave the world Justin Bieber, Avril Lavigne, Celine Dion, and Nickelback, amongst others. Surely anything that charts up here must be bland derivative junk that was clearly not good enough to make it south of the border, right? Well, you could argue that might be the case, particularly Canadian acts that are jumping on trends that Americans already started, but it tends to be a little bit more complicated. And the place to start would be the Canadian Radio Telecommunications Commission, otherwise known as the CRTC, because that was quite a mouthful. The idea behind it ties into the preservation of uniquely Canadian content. Given our proximity to the US and the fact that sheer size means the US market is so much bigger than ours, there is a desire to give Canadian artists a boost nationally so that they wouldn't have to rely upon international hits to succeed. It's a bit of a controversial system up here, as any sort of regulation tends to be, but when you look at the bigger picture, I tend to support the CRTC for a few key reasons. It's not like it's preventing the massive hits from the United States from getting huge up here, with very rare exception. In the meantime, it gives a greater audience to Canadian creators who might never have a chance to get there in the States, especially with increased consolidation of radio up there with so much more of it sounding the same. But here's the thing, since the Canadian Hot 100 debuted in the mid-2000s, it's increasingly departed from US trends to fall somewhere between them and other international audiences. And this means that more offbeat oddities will land in our charts. The smaller population means that a song doesn't need to appeal to an increasingly massive audience required for US hits. And since hip-hop and country radio tends to be a fair bit smaller, something thanks to the demographic demand, what fills in the blanks is an odd assortment of pop rock, electronica, and indie songs that defy categorization. And the hilarious thing is a fair chunk of them aren't even Canadian. Since our market has become more accustomed to weirder stuff, it's meant where songs like Come With Me Now by Congos barely had an impact in the United States, sadly. It was a top 10 hit up here, which I like to think that our taste is that much better, but really it's just demographics. And you know, all this got me thinking. There's a whole swath of music that as of this date has not hit the United States yet, or likely never will. To qualify them for this list, it must not have charted at all on the Billboard Hot 100 in the past 6 months. So let's put some of it on display, shall we? Prepare to get mostly Canadian up in here. Let's get this started. American You by Yelawolf, peaking at 89.
American You. Never miss a Sunday service, never got tattoos. Every time you drive by waving, I see you right through. Do 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 do. Fuck you too.
Now I already know what some of you are gonna say. You start off a Canadian Hot 100 list like this? Well, believe it or not, Yelawolf's charting songs did a lot better on the Canadian charts than they ever did south of the border. Mostly because when confronted with real country rap, country and hip-hop radio, programmers had no idea how to properly promote it, so they didn't. And I'll admit it's a hard sell. There's a lot of critics who would find it very easy to disparage a song like American You as this the second coming of Everlast. But as a ruggedly blue-collar track disparaging the yuppie sellout who turned his back on his roots and puts on a phony demeanor, American You balances out its acoustic grit with a distinctive rollicking groove and Yelawolf's admittedly weak but effective vocals. It's not the best song from Love Story by a mile. When you have Empty Bottles, Till It's Gone, and especially Heartbreak, you can do better, but I dare say this song is more country than anything on Luke Bryan's last album, and what does that tell you? Next up, Better to Be Loved by Francesco Yates, peaking at 37.
It's better to be loved once you come near it. You don't have to fear it. I just want you to hear it. It's better to be loved. It's better to be loved.
So one of the biggest criticisms of the Canadian charts is that they effectively produce Canadian versions of acts that already exist or are better south of the border. And in a sense, that's half true. But as Francesco Yates proves with his breakout here, quality is a much different proposition. Taking the retro disco trend and adding some real tightness to the prominent bass line and the weedy guitars, Yates brings a lot more organic charisma than Adam Levine's yowling has provided in years, especially with the horn stinks to back it up. And yeah, the lyrics don't exactly rise above a typical pop dance hookup track, but they really don't need to for for this sort of song, and it gives the song a rhythmic tightness that can excuse some of the shakier production and the lack of a great ending. Definitely recommended song, check it out. Next up, Black Magic by Little Mix, peaking at 94. Yeah, I debated putting this on the list, mostly because I'm fairly certain it'll be debuting in the Hot 100 South of the Border very soon, but I've been getting request after request to talk about it, so here we go. Yeah, I like this. Yeah, I can't deny it's a little bit percussion heavy, but the shimmering guitars and prominent groove that reminds me way too much of Black and White by Michael Jackson on a side note, paired with all four of the girls delivering a vibrantly catchy performance, makes the song pretty damn infectious. And that's before we get to the lyrics, and wow, I haven't seen a song this secretly dirty in a while. Read a little deeper, and I'm fairly certain the song is a veiled innuendo for cunnilingus. It reminds me of songwriting from The Wanted that was pretty shameless and filthy, but it hit it well enough that the kids could still appreciate it without knowing the deeper subtext. So yeah, okay, definitely approving of this. Looking forward to that next album, Little Mix. Keep it up. Next up, Criminal by Ash Koley, peaking at 85. So while some of you might know I currently live in Toronto, I grew up in the Midwest in the city of Winnipeg, the city behind this particular pop duo that I guarantee the majority of you have never heard of. They originally dropped the debut back in 2010 that had no impact on any charts, but they made a comeback last year with Criminal, which landed on the charts in 2015 and made this list. Mostly because it's a pretty damn kick-ass pop song. Most of this is courtesy of Ash Koley herself, who brings a ton of potent charisma and stage presence to the underlying dark piano line, the stuttering hi-hat groove, and that march beat that reminds me in a great way of Icon for Hire, with perhaps not quite as heavy. And while you could argue the lyrics do step into melodrama and the disastrous relationship on display, they work in the same way that Can't Remember to Forget You by Shakira and Rihanna did. Over the top and clearly aware of it and just taking the listener all along for the insane ride. This song really deserved to do a whole lot better, but I'm definitely approving of it. Next up, Crystals by Of Monsters and Men, peaking at 86.
Feel the tones that tremble down your spine. Whoa. Cover your crystallines and let your colors bleed and blend with mine.
Yeah, they actually charted a single from their newest album, Beneath the Skin, up on the Canadian charts. And if you saw my review of that album, you'll probably know this isn't one of my favorite tracks. They're a little desaturated, a little lacking in the same propulsive momentum, a little bit too reliant on the percussion, but let's be honest here. A song with lyrics this poetic, untangling a relationship's problems to find clarity at the center, and production with this sort of organic swell, and a hook this good, it's gonna make the list regardless. Solid as hell song, definitely recommended. Next up, Guilty as Sin by Dan Talevski, peaking at 64.
Guilty as sin, just let me in. Baby, let's go back in time for the night and just relive. Guilty as sin, just let me in. Baby, it's a crime I commit when my hands are touching your body.
And now we've got our second example of songs that could have arguably imitated US or UK trends. In this case, everybody's desperate desire to find a new Justin Timberlake. And while I do think vocally Dan Talevski isn't quite there yet, although in the pre-chorus it gets pretty damn close, the blend of acoustic guitar with the horn stings, the crisp tight beat combined with the explicit lyrics about reliving an old hookup, I do have questions about the whole taking innocence line, mostly because the implication is that they did do things before and thus she wouldn't really have the same innocence. But really, when the groove and the vibe is this slick and tight, I have a hard time complaining. Definitely check this out. Next up, Hold Back the River by James Bay, which peaked at 56. Now frankly, I'm amazed this hasn't crossed into the States yet after the success of George Ezra. Yet for some bizarre reason, James Bay remains an act that can't quite break into the US market even despite tremendous success in the UK and charting here. And also because he's awesome. Hold Back the River focuses on pushing back into the inevitable river of time to reconnect with an old lover, and that crescendo all throughout the song anchored on the distant guitars before bass switches into its willowy falsetto and the multi-track vocals to give this choral swell, and still manages to capture the whole desperation in his voice. It's fantastic. It's an incredibly propulsive folk rock song and proves that for as much as Ed Sheeran just cranks out sleepy ballads through this year, there's still some acts in folk who can bring some real energy to the table. Definitely check this out. Next up, I'm An Albatraoz by AronChupa, peaking at number 8.
I'm an albatross. I'm an albatross. I'm an albatross.
No jokes. This made the top 10 in Canada, and I'm not kidding about this, and I'm pretty much obliged to include it if only to explain why this got so big. See, you know how Vine has been polluting hip-hop in the States for the past 2 years? In Canada, it's crept into mainstream pop as well, arguably for the better, which is why we have acts like Shawn Mendes charting some hits. And since EDM never really went to way up here, we got the off-kilter and mostly insane I'm An Albatraoz. And no, as much as I'd like to say it'd make more sense if it was albatross, which is a symbol of coming doom, it's albatross. And it's not supposed to make any sense beyond just an assertion of dominance, I think. And let's make this clear, this song should not work at all. The fake French opening, the lo-fi pianos, the warped synth production, and that goddamn melody that shouldn't blend across both forms of production as well as it does. And yet, a dozen listens later, I can't deny that it really works for me. A swirling bit of vaudeville-esque madness that has a certain theatricality blending past and present as something that's distinctly unique, something that not a lot of EDM-inspired music can say nowadays. I don't think I can explain this song all that well, but I think I'll definitely endorse this. Check it out. Next up, Jackpot by Jocelyn, peaking at 47.
All that I think about day and night is having you in my dream life. I made the jackpot right.
So as I've mentioned, indie music has a pretty recognizable presence up here, but even I'm a little bit surprised to see this. Jocelyn is one half of the indie soul duo Jocelyn and Lisa, and this song she wrote solo ended up being a bigger hit than anything they've ever released. The low buzzing synth that gives Alice's willowy voice, the soulful backing vocals with the sparse guitar, and that beat to build off of the minimalist foundation, it's a sort of stripped back indie pop song that focuses on taking the next step in a relationship to secure something that's real. And what I really admire about the song is its restraint. It's perfect for setting up that feeling of anticipation, on the precipice of really exploding but never quite there, which really does match the lyrics surprisingly well. Bit of a dark horse entry here, probably didn't expect this, but definitely recommend it. I really like this song. Next up, Leather Jacket by Arkells, peaking at 88.
I said hang tight, I can drive you home. I put on up and with the southern accent, I offered you my dad's leather jacket.
Again, I already covered these guys when I reviewed their less than great third album, High Moon, last year. And no, this is not better than the insanely good Crawling Through Your Window, which was one of my favorite songs of 2014, but it is a close second. The bright guitar riff against the underlying piano and that tight bass, and lyrics that focus on the complicated situation when an old train-wrecked friend re-enters your life, whether you want them to or not. And then comes the awkward questions of whether or not you even want to try to help, especially when it's clear that you might have feelings for them, and that they might want their help and support, but they'll never ask for it. Either way, it's a sort of complicated rock song that you'll never see in the States anymore charting on the radio, but it'll definitely chart up here, and we're all the better for it. Next up, Make You Mine by High Valley, which peaked at 48.
All I've ever needed, wanted, underneath this pale blue sky, I'm gonna make you mine. Yeah, I'm gonna make you mine.
Now for all of those who thought that Mumford & Sons made a terrible decision to go electric, myself included, or that you wish that the lyrics are a little bit less exasperatingly dickish, or maybe had a little bit more of a country flavor, we got High Valley. And the funny thing is, this is nothing all that special lyrically. A pretty straightforward love song with a great lyrical flow with fast-picked banjo, stomping groove, bells accenting those waves of guitars, and that wall of vocals that sounds so good. And really, it's the hook of this song that just wins you over. It's propulsive, it's earnest as hell, and yeah, it's a little bit corny, but when it's this infectious, it's hard to care. Highly recommended, one of my favorite songs that's dropped in the Canadian charts thus far this year. Next up, Pop 101 by Marianas Trench featuring Anami Vice, peaked at number 27.
How about one more last word like, hey girl, we've only got tonight. Some things just go together like higher desire and fire, higher desire and fire.
I already did a full special comment discussing Marianas Trench, and this song in particular is a brilliant piece of pop rock writing and composition, viciously satirizing the modern pop formula while still utilizing its best elements to deliver an intensely listenable song beyond the many jokes and references hidden between the lines. It's really quite impressive how dense this track is when you dig into the production and the lyrics. And with the release of their upcoming album, Astoria, hopefully this year, the rest of the world will be let in on one of Canada's best pop rock groups. Looking forward to that album, Marianas Trench. Please don't screw it up. Next up, Rule the World by Walk Off the Earth, which peaked at 22.
I say yeah, yeah, yeah. They say no, no, no. They say slow, slow, slow. I say go, go, go. They say no way. I say I rule the world. I say I rule the
You know, it's always nice to include fellow YouTubers on this list, and in this case, we got a group that if you were on the internet in 2012, you'll know these guys. Walk Off the Earth broke into the spotlight for their cover of Somebody That I Used to Know by Gauche, whatever happened to him, by the way, all played on one guitar, but they've actually been an indie act in Canada for the past decade, drawing on ska, reggae, and folk to impressive effect, and nowhere is that more apparent than on Rule the World, anchored in that killer horn line to back up the rough-edged vocals and explosive as hell chorus. And sure, lyrically, it's nothing all that special, basically playing in much of the same vein as uplifting folk rock about conquering your dreams, although I definitely appreciate that Walk Off the Earth admit that they might have chased some fruitless illusions before. But again, when you have such a great hook and the fantastically raw vocal delivery of Sarah Blackwood, I find it hard to care. This is a really great pop rock song, highly recommended. Next up, She Keeps Me Up by Nickelback, which peaked at 78.
Coca-Cola roller coaster, love her even though I'm not supposed to. She keeps me up, all night, all night. She keeps me up, all night.
Oh, don't look at me like that. Yeah, I know it's borderline heresy for a music critic to include a Nickelback song on this list, but there's a lot to like about this song. The tightness of that bass line, the snarled sleaze of the guitars, the oily grind of the production that fits Chad Kroeger's voice disturbingly well, and those lyrics that are frankly way too clever to have been written by Nickelback, mostly because they were co-written by Marianas Trench frontman Josh Ramsey. And they're also about cocaine addiction and has that manic sleaze that comes with it. It's a nasty, nasty little track that revels in its own filth. In other words, the only time when Nickelback becomes remotely likable for me. Yeah, I'm gonna recommend it. Deal with it. And finally, Someone New by Hozier, which peaked at number 9.
Day with someone new, I fall in love just a little, oh, little bit. Every day with someone new, I fall in love just a little, oh, little bit. Every day with someone new, I fall in love just a little, oh, little bit. Every day with someone new.
You know, I get the feeling in the US, the only thing that Hozier's gonna be known for is Take Me to Church, which, yeah, it's a great song, but it's nowhere near his best off of that debut. And to be fair, neither is this. It's not Angel of Small Death in the Codeine Scene, or From Eden, or To Be Alone, or especially Jackie and Wilson, which is my favorite song of last year, period. But there's a lot to like about this regardless. I like the elegant soul with the snarl still looking in the guitars, Hozier's delivery that walks the line between smug self-effacement and that underlying melancholy, and the way that this song plays with the faded grandeur that really only highlights how much of a complete asshole Hozier is being in the song by jumping from relationship to relationship to one-night stand, no matter how he excuses it. And to be fair, he completely knows that, and would freely admit it if he got called out. The honesty of this track redeems it, and the nihilism played against that old-school glamour and bombast, it's a great juxtaposition. I really dug it. In short, Hozier's self-titled album, easily one of the best of 2014, and if this is where all we're gonna get from him on any charts, I'll take it any day of the week. So that was 15 Canadian songs that you might not have had the chance to experience before, but definitely deserve your attention. And I'm not gonna give out a best or worst this week. These are all solid as hell, and they all have my recommendation and provide all the more proof, once again, say it with me now, the Canadian charts are always better. But until then, until tomorrow when the regular Billboard breakdown resumes, I'm Mark, you're watching Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.